Well, Brian, I really do appreciate you taking the time out of your day to show us your background. I mean, come talk to us for a little bit, but I really wanted to just take a quick second, start us off, and let us know who you are and what you do. And then I got a few juicy questions for you.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Brian Aitken. I'm the founder and CEO of Topple. Topple is effectively a digital advertising platform that services the firearms and hunting industry. We do a lot more than that, but that is, a core part of our business. I spent like 15 years working on Madison Avenue for, big brand names like Hewlett Packard, the Hershey Company, 20th Century Fox, managed probably about like $6 billion in digital advertising budgets over that period of time. And around 2016, really started seeing censorship creep into everything. So, like, we were getting Slack messages and emails from, CMOs at big companies like, hey, somebody sent us a screenshot and our ad is serving on this website and we've got to take it down. And it's like, that's a legitimate website, though. Like, what's the problem with it? And what they were effectively doing was, as you know, demonetizing anything that was right of center, not even like firearms, but anything that was right of center. So we effectively built a digital advertising platform that's censorship free. The only rule that we have is whatever you're advertising has to be legal to advertise in the geography that it's being advertised in.
Sounds about right. Yeah, I mean, just simple logic, right?
Yeah, yeah, but I mean, since then we've crushed it. Like your listeners might be interested to know, like last year we did over 5,000 sales from Magpul. They were approaching a 4-to-1 return on ad spend by the end of the year, which is, $4 in revenue for every dollar spent on advertising. That number fluctuates wildly depending upon, who the client is, what the advertising is, if they
Yeah,
manufacture a product that people actually want. There's a lot of
yeah.
variables that go into marketing and ROAS, but yeah, we've done a pretty phenomenal job. But mostly, we learned early on that we've got to focus on quality over quantity. So it's
Yeah.
not about like front end metrics like, hey, how many impressions were served? It's about, okay, are we getting clicks from a qualified audience? And if so, are they going to the website and adding items to the cart and completing sales?
Yeah, that's what people really give a shit about. That's just the back end. The front end, soft metrics, vanity metrics, those are great for media buyers to kind of make sure the car's on the right part of the road. But at the end of the day, if you're not showing, hey, you made this much money, they don't care about that stuff up front.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So I
That
haven't
makes
been briefed on the questions. So hit me with what you've got.
Yeah, no, I mean, I almost thought when some of these questions are for me too, so a little bit of a, fun time here, but I want to know exactly what you guys will approve versus what doesn't get approved on Meta or Google. So like give us that big differentiator, whether it's landing pages, copy, creative, or a little bit of both.
I mean, it's a little bit of both, really. But for the longest time, and I think it's still this way with digital ads on Meta and Google, you can't actually show like firearms and firearms in use. And that's really like the one big thing is like you don't have to self-censor who you are or what you sell. If you service the AR industry and you're making AR accessories, go ahead and show it. If you make suppressors, go ahead and show it. Like have fun with the creative, lean into it. You've got to remember like the people that we're advertising to are people on websites like Gunbroker and AR15.com and Gun Digest, Recoil, Ammo Land, all of those kind of publications. So
Yeah.
you're reaching gun people. Don't feel like you can't show guns.
No, that makes perfect sense. It's like the stuff that everyone wants to show, but then they have to go through these filters. And yeah, there's ways on Meta. Google's way harder, but there's ways on Meta to get through, even doing it compliantly. But you still kind of have to, as a brand, filter yourself. So if you are making, AR parts and you sell optics on your site, you can show the optics like in your hand, like here, there's this. Imagine what else is here. So yeah, that makes a lot more sense to just and like all the sites you just listed off, those are the sites that we all spend time on. We probably should be doing other things, but that's the right people.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because you mentioned that, but we've got a concealed carry client who's been advertising with us for years now, and when they were advertising on Meta, they couldn't show like any of the guns with their concealed carry, products. So they were using a
Yeah.
banana instead of a handgun, and even that
Yeah.
got flagged and taken down.
Yeah, it's wild some of the stuff that gets out there and just whether they get flagged or caught or whatever the case is. But yeah, there's some companies going through some pretty big hoops. Okay, so let's talk about what happens on the platform when people are running ads through you guys. So if you can be specific if you can, but what separates the brands that actually print that money on the back end versus ones that, go there and then they fail? Because advertising is a lot of testing, but at the end of the day, there are going to be some things that fail. But then there's the flip side.
I would say it's the people that fail generally don't listen to our recommendations for best practices. There's a little bit of friction there because we are a self-serve advertising platform. So anybody can go to app.wearetopple.com, create an account, upload their creatives, launch video and display campaigns without talking to anybody. But the reality is that, like, we have seen tens of millions of dollars worth of firearms transactions through Topple, and we've got a pretty good idea on like what ad formats work, what kind of creative work, what landing pages work, how to set up pixels and all of that kind of stuff, just to make sure that we're actually tracking things that matter to the actual customer. But the big differences are going to be the companies that take the time just to have like a 15-30 minute chat with us about what we've seen work, what we've seen drive sales for other brands, whether it's Beretta, Magpul, Aero Precision, Remington Ammo, like any of those guys. We know what works. So if you kind of get off and running, and we will email you like a list of best practices,
Yeah.
but if you ignore those and just kind of like give it a 24 or 72-hour test and you don't see 100 sales in that time frame, I'm not going to be surprised. What we would prefer is get on a call with us. We don't charge anybody anything for our time. In fact, even when you become a customer, the self-serve advertisers can submit a ticket at any time. But anybody who signs up for an ad spend plan has a dedicated account manager who can set up campaigns for you, make optimization recommendations, help you out with reporting. They're really like an extension of your team. So that way, like, if you don't have the budget to hire an agency to help you out with it, our team is kind of built to absorb some of that impact and be an extension of your team. And that goes for whether or not this is an advertiser who's using an agency or a marketing consultant, or if they're trying to do everything in house.
No, that makes sense. I mean, there's a lot that people can do, and they can get the ball pretty far down the road to, test the platform out. But, at the end of the day, you need to trust the professionals because they're typically dealing with real data.
Yeah. And I mean, we're seeing some interesting things right now. Like certain things are flying off the shelf. This year has been phenomenal for like NFA items and suppressors.
Yeah.
Like, that's a no brainer. I think the ATF saw like 150,000 applications on Gen 1 for suppressors.
Yep.
I'm guilty. I'm on that list. But we're also seeing things like attribution windows for like non-consumables are elongating. So people are
Yeah.
taking a little bit longer to make that like consumer decision. We're not sure if
Yeah.
that's related to the economy or what that is, but it probably is like a macroeconomic indicator that
Yeah.
people are taking a little bit more time to explore the products that they're buying. And, that might mean that, okay, a company that's used to seeing conversions within 14 to 30 days, they might be looking at like 45 to 60 days at this point.
So I was actually going to ask another question, but I wanted to piggyback off of that. So with that sort of buyer psychology kind of changing a little bit, how should people who are hopping on your platform adjust their own mindset or strategy?
I think it's helpful to have like a realistic attitude that advertising is a great tool, but it's not magic. So if you've got a product that requires a longer sales cycle,
Hmm.
or you're a new brand that is looking for quick sales, you've got to get your brand name out there. And there's a bunch of different ways to do that. Advertising is obviously one part of the mix, but it's not the only thing to do. Continue doing everything else that you're doing. If you're working on social media content, email, obviously SMS, it's all going to help. But what we can do and what we've been recommending is we can effectively do two things, which is we can set that attribution window at your desired attribution window, like where you think you should ultimately be in the long
Yep.
run. So let's say like your long-term objective is to have an attribution window of 30 days for all of your sales. We can display that data to you in the dashboard, but what we can
Hmm.
also do is we can track it up to 90 days on the back end and let you know what you've been missing out on because you're only
That,
looking at that short window.
that makes sense. No, that's actually really cool. I mean, I think that makes perfect sense to the nerd brain over here that does all the media buying. So I like that. Instead of just being handcuffed as you know over on Meta to, that 7 to 28 day, but it's really untrustworthy either way.
Yeah. And what's nice about us as well is, we only use click-through attribution. I think view-through attribution and other attribution models are really phenomenal, especially for the ad tech industry, because if we're using other attribution models, an ad tech company could inflate the number of conversions and sales and revenue. But for us, if we don't actually have a click and that person doesn't actually visit your site and complete a sale, that data and that sales not going to show up in your dashboard.
Good. No, that's the cleaner the information is, the better. So that makes perfect sense. And on that note, the last question I had for you was, so if a brand came to you guys and say they had 10 grand a month they wanted to put into advertising, what is the exact campaign that you would want, that you would suggest that a new brand comes in and runs inside?
I'm assuming that you're talking about a firearms brand. So I'll tell you what works really
Yeah.
well with $10,000 a month for a firearms brand. We would normally, for like the initial 3 months, take 50% of that, put it against video.
Okay.
Video is a top performer. So like last year, those 5,000 sales that I'd mentioned for Magpul, I think 75% of those came from video ads.
Okay.
The other portion I would split into prospecting campaigns using
Hmm.
our top performing ad zones, which are going to be the 320 by 100, the 720 by 90, and the 300 by 250. And then
Okay.
after 3 months, assuming that we've got tracking set up on the advertiser's website, now
Yeah.
we're going to have a really good retargeting audience for active shoppers and abandoned carts. And we can
Hmm.
start adding that into the budget as well.
And so, second part of that question is, if people came in with a lower budget, would the only thing that would change be the timeline of all that, or would you change any of the structure of those campaigns?
I might change the structure a little bit to weight more heavily towards video just for those quick wins.
Yeah.
But when you're doing that, you're only serving ads to the audiences on publishers that carry video ads. So
Yeah.
so you're not so like for example with Gun Digest and Recoil and AmmoLand, we don't run video ads on those sites. We're trying to get
Okay.
them all to run video, but
Yeah.
you only have your videos on like ar15.com and a bunch of other sites. There's over a
Sure.
thousand sites in our network.
Yeah.
But if you really want to have that reach, you probably want to have both video and display and market at the same time.
Okay. No, I appreciate that, and that kind of breaks down to us, the people watching, the importance of video, because it's something we talk about all the time. How even on Meta or wherever else you want to put it, video has great uses. And it's funny how, like, you're saying that the sales are coming through at a heavy rate video wise on your side, because I know we're on Meta, we typically use videos as a way to build a video retargeting audience. It doesn't typically generate sales. But if someone gets a 3 second through play and we can send them a static image to do something else, it's kind of like a different strategy. So it's good to see that it can be done differently on your side too.
Oh, yeah, video for us is full funnel. I know everywhere else people are like, oh, video historically is top of funnel, and we try to get
Yeah.
people in with video, but it converts really well. And you only pay if there's been a 10-second continuous view. So if somebody only
Oh wow.
watches like 3 seconds and then they're like, not for me, and they opt out, you don't pay for that.
That's cool. That's way more. That's a much higher intent person right there.
Yeah, we're trying to like I said, our emphasis is on quality, right? We're only successful if we can generate sales for our advertisers, and we go to our publishers and tell them the same thing. Like a lot of these publishers have had 20 different ads on a single page for the last decade because they've been scraping the bottom of the barrel trying to monetize the site with whoever will work with them.
Yep.
But we're trying to bring them premium CPMs and say, listen, we're going to give you guys contextually relevant ads that actually will be enough to keep the lights on and pay your bills. So instead of having 20 ads on a page, why don't we bring that down to like two or three?
That's better for everybody too, because I think we've all seen those sites that are cluttered with stuff that they don't really want to see anyways. So I like that.
Yeah, it was nice. When Paul and Eddie were revamping ARFCOM, they gave
Hmm.
us access to Figma, like way before they launched their site, and we could kind of guide them with like what we wanted, like the sticky sidebars.
Oh,
And
cool.
now, if you're on a forum and you're scrolling down, you don't
Yeah.
scroll past the ads. The ads stay sticky on the right hand side of the page. And it's just like little things like that to increase viewability, increase click through rate, increase conversion rate. But yeah, our emphasis is on quality because that's what drives sales.
That's amazing, Brian, and that's a win-win for everybody. I mean, everyone who's listening has got to spend some time to figure out where they want to put their money, and I think this is a fantastic option. Is there anything else you want to leave before we kind of call this a day here? This has been a lot of information. I think we could probably make this a 3 or 4 parter.
Yeah, I would say that, it's super easy to get started. It's just like Google Ads, but for the firearms or right of center industries, or
Yep.
even like brands that, want to reach those people. There's no reason why Liberty Mutual and Ford shouldn't be advertising through Topple because let's face it, people who are right of center and own guns probably more likely to buy that F-150 than somebody on MSNBC.com, right?
Yep.
But it's super easy to get started. You can, just like Google Ads, create an account that's pay as you go. So as
Yep.
much or as little as you want. What we find is that most of the advertisers wind up spending, anywhere between $1,000 a month if it's like a small FFL or maybe a small manufacturer, up
Yep.
to $25,000 or $35,000 a month if they're a big enterprise company. And with those brands that start seeing returns, we offer ad spend plans, which effectively unlock additional discounts, features, dedicated account support, all of that kind of stuff.
Perfect, man. Well, I appreciate all that, and we'll make sure to put a link to all that in the show notes here. But Brian, this has been a lot of fun, man. I really appreciate you dropping all this information here for all of us.
Yeah, likewise, Brian. Appreciate it, man.
All right, take care. Thank you.
Yep, you too.